Okay, so when last we left you guys, you were in the temple of Kivi Aiti, surrounded by more bright crystal than maybe you thought existed. And certainly, I don't think anybody, as had been mentioned, was expecting it to be in an actual place like a temple. Most of you thought it was just going to be a cave, maybe with some crystal in it. And you just fought off these strange bat-like creatures, which once you killed them, kind of dissolved into a foam. The main casualty of that exchange was Brother Bras, who was basically dying when the clerics of Caracol laid hands on him and brought him back from the brink. So he has recovered somewhat. He's completely pale. Ozana is, you can read Ozana pretty easily. She's like concerned for his well-being, but you don't see a lot of emotion welling up in her. She's taking a kind of very practical concern in his health, but she's not like really worried or anything about him. She's glad that he's okay. She's grateful that you helped him recover. But he at this point is he's awake and conscious, but pretty out of it, like kind of staring off into space and clearly in some kind of shock or something. So you've kind of hauled him over to a pillar and kind of leaned him up against that. You're probably all sort of standing around in the aftermath of what went down. And just to remind you, it's a pretty big chamber of dwarven construction with small crystals lining the wall at a certain height, and then these stone statues that are holding what look like kind of torch holders with larger gems set into them. And then at one end of the temple is this carving of the Mother of Stone halfway emerging from the wall, holding her hand forward, and in that hand is a divot where perhaps something once rested, and Saphira and Evaristo tried to put one of the other crystals into that recess, and nothing happened. There's two ways out of the chamber. There's the way you came in, and there's a passage that leads off of one side wall. The walls are covered with various carvings of different kinds. And Saphira, you're still getting some, like, your abdominal muscles are still aching, but the kind of severity of that initial, you drank from the fount that was in the middle of the room, and the immediate effects of that appear to have worn off, but you're feeling still like pretty unsettled about that. And also on the flip side of that, the other people that drank from it were Tio and Claudio, I believe, right? You guys are still experiencing that thing I described of your perceptions appear to be heightened, and you feel kind of full of energy. Claudio, was there any when you're home and you're training, or you're kind of trying to keep fit as a warrior for your village, was there any kind of training regimen or particular thing that you would do to kind of keep in shape?
Oh, good question. I think there was a lot of helping around with the manual labor, I think, for the family. And I think as much as possible, I tried to fit in some kind of like training in almost every like aspect. Even if I was just like, shoveling hay back and forth, I was sort of practicing like with the staff. So I wouldn't say there was like a regimen as much as like it was my way of living. Okay, great. Yeah. So like when people needed water carried from the well, you get 2 buckets and you'd carry it, lifting as you went. Or I love the image of you using a pitchfork and kind of practicing with that as you. Great. So everything
So you do a lot of physical work around the village, and you're always kind of keeping yourself fit that way.
Right.
More than the average medieval villager. So I think the thing that comes into your mind in this kind of state, you're like, I could just like, you feel like, you could clean up the whole town. Like you could, if you were home right now, like you would build a house, or you would like, that's how you're feeling. You're feeling really kind of, I guess, physically powerful.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Okay, so you guys are, Brother Bros is leaning against that pillar, kind of staring off into space, and you've all kind of recovered from the aftermath of this fight. So what happens next?
Can I ask him what he saw?
Ooh.
I want to like run up and I don't know, like eagerly ask, like what was it like on the other side? What did you see?
He's kind of staring off, past you, and you get his attention, and his eyes kind of shift over to you. Just darkness. All was black. I saw nothing.
I'll draw a little like swirl on his forehead.
Ooh.
Or like I'll get some dirt from my handful of moss and draw a little swirl on his forehead, and say, maybe you pray to the wrong god. And then I'm gonna get up and look around the room.
Wow. Okay. Great. Ozana like watches this all go down. There's a moment, Saphira, you notice that when Tio reaches out to make a mark on Bros's forehead, there's a moment where Ozana, just the barest kind of movement, almost like she wants to stop him, but then she kind of lets him do it, and then she's just kind of like, she gives him a hard look after he makes that comment about worshiping the right god. Okay, Tio, looking for anything in particular, or
maybe checking out this the big statue, the Mother of Stone. Or,
yeah,
is that what you called it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe kind of get a closer look of what, like you said there's an indentation in her hand, like what that looks like.
Yeah, so you're sort of just barely tall enough to like get to see in there. You have to kind of put your hands up and pull yourself up. Her hand is probably about 14 inches across the palm. It's big. Nurga carving is very angular. There's not a lot of rounded surfaces, so maybe it's like so the whole carving is, the whole sculpture is very angled in terms of how it was cut, and the divot in the middle of her palm has eight sides to it that descend to a point. So it's an 8-sided, geometric shape, like the bottom end of a sharp diamond or something like that.
And none of the stones around or are any of the stones around the room that same shape?
Does not appear to be so, especially after Saphira and Evaristo tried the one from one of the statues. Right. That one, it had 8 sides on its underside, but they were a different angle. They weren't as steeply angled as this recess in the palm, so it didn't fit. In fact, yeah, I think upon sort of assessing that, well, no, I'm not gonna. Yeah, no, that's the extent of it. Yeah, the doesn't look like any of the other crystals in the room would fit. Yeah, go ahead.
You said there's like there's a door leading to another room?
You entered the room from this one direction. On the opposite wall was the statue. There's these 4 big columns kind of supporting the ceiling, and then if you were coming in that same direction, on the left-hand wall, right in the middle of it, there's no door, but there's a passage that leads off in that direction. Anybody else have anything they want to? It's cold. There's this faint glow. I will say, I guess, Amu, these crystals don't glow as brightly as the one you remember in your home. Maybe it's just a kind of nostalgia for your youth and how amazing and magical that crystal seemed to you, but these crystals are quite faint. And they glow. There's enough of them, or that glow does illuminate the room, but illuminates it kind of dimly.
That's what I was noticing.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that to everyone. This doesn't seem right somehow. These crystals are not the ones. Not like I remember. I wonder why.
So Azana goes over and starts to, with the hilt of her, of one of her knives, her short swords that she's carrying, she starts to knock the smaller ones out of their fixtures in the wall. Let us gather them up and leave this place. Our numbers are dwindling. So she starts to, chip one of them off the wall.
I think that we should have a council and decide how to progress.
So she stops what she's doing reluctantly, and containing her impatience a little bit. She actually listens to what you're saying and comes over to where you're standing.
Everyone, let's decide what our next move should be. And I kind of stand over by Brother Brass, and so he doesn't have to get up. Does everybody else come on over?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So everybody's gathered around Brother Brass.
And I say, well, when I was leaving home, I decided to make a promise to my uncle that I would bring home the wealth of the Nurga. And so that's what I have set out to do. But I had hoped to find a cave that I could harvest my own crystals, I admit. And perhaps maybe there still is a cave. We just haven't found it yet. But how I also promised to share the wealth of whatever we found with all of you. So that's what I said I would do. And perhaps we must decide what to take and what to leave. And if we want to search some more.
I think there may be greater riches in this place. And to desecrate this holy place might be more risk than the booty is worth.
Do any of your kind, this is Ozana addressing Amu, worship this stone woman anymore?
Well, yes, we do, but we don't have any statues like this. It's just the holidays that we have, and we have the Kivi Aiti ceremony every year, and we keep my family has a crystal in our house, and it's our prized possession. And my mother smiles every time she sees it. Not everyone has one, because when the Nurga left, they, took what they could carry.
Yes, and perhaps these are the things they could not carry. Perhaps these things need to be removed from here, and we should each have our share of them. She's not laughing. I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Will your people ever return here to this place? It seems a waste, especially after the loss of the life of a comrade of mine, to come here and not return with something of use.
I don't know. I had also hoped to find more dwarves, but clearly no one's been here for a long time. So perhaps bringing the stones with us, and we can rekindle the worship of Kivi Aiti elsewhere, where the dwarves live. But I still wonder, it seems like there's something we're missing, some mystery, some riddle here. Can we search some more?
I do not wish to leave with just Brass at this point. We need each other. I will go along with whatever the majority wishes. My vote would be to leave now, to take what we can from here and go back the way we came.
Claudio?
I think that you might be right, that there's something different about these crystals, and that we could search further to find what you remember.
What's our food situation?
Let's take all of our food and put it out on the floor. And I kind of draw a circle in the dust.
I have no food.
And I put 3 loaves of bread down.
Ozana unpacks Brass's backpack, and between him and her, they have about 9 days worth of food for a single person. So 9 rations.
I have 3.
0.
Oh, and Evaristo has 1. So that makes...
So we have 16, I think. And how many of us are there? 7.
Yeah, there's 7. So that's 2 days. You are, I think, 4 days out from. Well, let's see. You're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days out from Claudio's home village. Which, as
How
far as
long
you
did
know,
it take us to get in here, though? To get in this?
from the point you entered.
Yeah, where we entered the cave, or the.
It took you from the point where you, the last time you camped outside to where you camped inside was roughly half a day. I mean, you think that you could get out if you could find your way back through that labyrinth, which, given the fact that your tracks in the dust are probably pretty easy to follow, you think that you could get back to the entrance in several hours.
There's got to be more food down here. I mean, people clearly have lived here before, so.
I have snares. There's a question for the judge. Did the land outside of the mountains, did that look like good hunting area for? I'd be able to catch something, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, you remember the old songs about the cows that had little grass to eat. But certainly, small game is something that would probably be, you know, you could probably trap some somehow in this area. Yeah.
And what's our water situation?
Everybody filled up at I think at the shrine of remember there was that one little cave that had a small waterfall from the ceiling, and that was fresh water that everybody filled up at, and that was not too long ago, so I think everybody has like a half ration of water on them. There's, of course, this font in the middle of the room.
Yeah, I ain't touching that anymore.
I have a question for everyone.
Yeah.
These creatures that attacked us, do you think they came from Kifiaiti, or is it some demonic magic that has come around since the dwarves are gone? Is the goddess, is the mountain trying to protect itself, or are these monsters something that we are doing a service by ridding the mountain of?
They seem like cut from the same cloth, the waterfall spirits and the protection spirits here, whatever they are.
Is it protection or is it a plague?
Well, we're
They only-
trespassing on a holy place. Are we not?
They only attacked when we drank, right?
But they came for our fire, right?
They did seem attracted to the fire, yeah.
And why did Saphira have such a bad reaction? Did you offend the goddess somehow, or is it because you're from far away?
I don't know. The two that enjoyed, I suppose, the water are smaller people, like you dwarves. I don't know. Tio is a follower of Caracol as well, so I'm not sure
But Claudio,
what I did.
Claudio's not small. Claudio's big.
Oh, Claudio, are you human?
I am human,
Oh, okay.
but perhaps it's our outlook on life that changed the way we experienced it.
I had another strange idea. What if the dwarves had a rite of passage to see who could make it through the labyrinth, and whoever made it there first was blessed? And whoever made it their second was also blessed. And whoever made it their third was poisoned.
Why don't you try a sip from the fountain, Amu?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that's a very smart idea. I think that
Oh.
I think that my idea of the race through the labyrinth probably is not true. I never heard any stories about that. So I'm gonna walk over and take a gulp of the fountain.
Okay, and do you is there any hesitation? Is it do you do it with kind of confidence? Is there any reluctance in your?
Well, I'm kind of giving myself up to whatever's going on here, and I'm just like, I'm a dwarf. I made it this far. If I if I you know, deserve to drink from the fountain of the dwarven goddess, then if I don't, then nobody does. So this is my damn home territory. So yeah, just go and take a gulp.
Okay, and do you wear gloves or your hands? Do you have bare hands?
Bare hands.
Bare hands. Okay. And I assume they're kind of calloused and they've seen a lot of action.
One of her traits is that she has big hands.
Oh, great. So this is the spotlight on your big hands.
Big scoop of hands.
So you reach down, you pick up a cup, a big handful of water, and drink it. And when it passes into your mouth, it's like colder than it's like painfully cold, and you're on the verge of swallowing it, and you have this sudden sensation like swallowing it will be like swallowing a stone. And it tastes, well, it's so cold that you can't even taste it. Actually, you're numb. Your mouth almost becomes instantly numb. So do you go ahead and swallow it?
Like swallowing a stone, huh?
That's like you have this sensation, like it's clearly liquid in your mouth, but it's so cold that the sensation of swallowing it would feel like trying to choke down a stone.
I guess I spit it back out into my hands.
Okay.
And then I'm like, maybe I was right about that. Everybody, be quiet, please. And I go ahead and listen, and I want to try to hear if I can hear that same sound that I heard when we first came in. You said that it sounded like, it reminded me of the wind chimes from when I was a kid. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I assume everybody's going to be as quiet as possible. Yeah. Okay. So Amu asks for silence. Everybody's, quiets down, and your ears kind of all tune in. And everybody, actually, Claudio, you don't hear anything, except maybe you hear like there's like the faint dripping of water. There's like a bloop, bloop. Tio, Amu, and Saphira. Saphira, you hear a very faint harmonic, something like at a really, really low level. And Amu, you, and Tio, you hear sort of the same thing as that. And Amu, you hear that same kind of harmonic resonance, but there's variation in it. And that reminds you of the wind chimes, the way that sounds.
Yeah.
So it's like a very almost subsonic kind of hum
And I look around and I'm like, do you hear it? Do you hear it?
Yes.
And I try to get
Can we?
close to one of the crystals to see if it's coming from them.
Can we try to see where it's coming from?
It seems to be coming from all around. You move to different parts of the room, and it doesn't really. I mean, it shifts a little bit, but then you move in one direction, and then it shifts. It sounds like it's coming from the place. It's like a fire alarm, right? You're like, where is that goddamn fire alarm? You can't really pinpoint it. When you get close to one, you walk up to into the wall, and you put your ear kind of close to it, and maybe it kind of slightly intensifies in proximity to the.
I want to sing to the crystal. So I rack my brain for any sort of Kifi related songs that I remember from my childhood.
Yeah.
And I sing it.
Okay. What would be the nature of this song? Like kind of chanting prayer, or like a retelling of one of the stories of Kivi. What would be the nature of it?
I think Kifi is sort of like the goddess of not only the earth, but I would think of like the mysteries of life that are kind of like hidden deep inside, kind of a thing. And you go to her to the dark place when you need to.
So the song is a song of that kind of.
Yeah.
It's not really a confessional, but a kind of ask when you are personally in a dark place. You kind of.
Oh no! I mean dark. Dark as in underground.
Okay, literally dark.
Not. I mean, yeah. I guess you could use that metaphor as well.
But
for dwarves being under.
This might be a song.
For dwarves being underground is a good thing.
Got it. So you sing what you can remember. Are you sort of projecting? Are you kind of singing? Are you chanting quietly?
I'm trying to sing and listen at the same time to see if the sounds if I can tonalize with them, or if they're shifting at all or reacting to the sound.
Okay, great. Roll wisdom.
I rolled an 8. I have a -1.
Yep.
For wisdom.
Yep. Okay. So you like sing a few, you sing like 1 or 2 words, and then you stop for a moment and listen, and you're kind of tuning into that sound that you could hear, and trying to sing words that are somewhat connected. And you get to the part of the song where you talk about where the chant talks about Kivi always, her eyes are always open in the dark, right? You get to those lines in Nurga, and everybody else, those who are interested, some people may be bored and not looking, but everybody who's looking, when you do that and you're close to the wall where there's this line of these crystals, they're spaced, maybe 5 feet apart, but you're standing there and you sing this one line, and there's a moment where briefly the 2 closest to you actually momentarily glow brighter. And then for you, Amu, and also I'm going to say for Tio and Saphira, the harmonic vibration intensifies very briefly, and you guys actually hear the kind of faint wind chimey sound, and then that glow fades from those 2, and then just very briefly brightens the 2 that are further away, and then they're back to normal. But it's a very subtle effect. It wasn't like, if you hadn't been really paying attention, you wouldn't have noticed these get brighter.
Should we put out our torches and see what we can see by the light of these crystals?
Can you see? Can you see something? And I go up to Tio, and I put my hands on his shoulder and kind of look in his face, and I say, "Can you see? Can you see something that I can't see?" I'm kind of looking in his eyes to see if he's like noticing something.
Did I, when all that was going on, did my heightened fountain drink senses see anything, or was it just
you saw just what I described?
Okay.
I mean, if you could get inside somebody else's head, like if you could, see what Saphira saw, it would be yours. Might have been a little. It would have been a little clearer and a little more dramatic. But you saw essentially the same thing.
Okay. So I look Amu back in the eye and say, "Keep singing. Sing louder."
Well, gosh darn it, I do it. I say, you sing too. Monks know how to sing.
Teach me the
You're a
words.
monk, right?
Yeah.
So I try to teach him the Nurga words, and say it like this, like that.
Okay.
And then try to sing it like really, really kind of loud.
Got it. So you go over it a couple times, and then okay, let's go. Let's do this thing.
Let's step over to the statues. Do it in front of one of those statues.
Okay. Great.
I'll join in, and if I forget any of the words, I'll just make them up.
Yeah.
And just sing along as loud as I can.
So you're joining in. I think that means you're helping. So Amu, make another roll like you did last time, and you get +1, so it cancels out your -1. So just straight up 2d6 to see what happens this time.
5.
Oh man. So mark wisdom. Okay, so you go over and you stand in front of one of these statues, and you guys get in the rhythm, and you raise your voice, and Amu, are you feeling like are you feeling the meaning of this song as you're singing it, like thinking about Kiviaiti and all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that for Amu, it's like sort of like connecting to a puzzle of sort of understanding, what this mysterious, fantastic culture that she heard so much about, but never knew what it was.
Okay.
So she's like, yeah, totally excited about. And Kifi Aiti seems like the one who holds the puzzle or the answers in her mind.
Okay. So you sing the chant, and you get to that same moment where Kiviaiti is always watching in the dark, and Tio's like right there with you, and then there's this moment where I think it's the word watching, where in Nurgan it's kind of complicated to say. And Tio, gets the syllables wrong, and there's this dissonance in the way you guys are chanting. And so as you are chanting up until that point, the crystal that this statue is holding, that you're paying attention to, actually does visibly grow brighter, and everyone sees this. It grows brighter to the point where you're pretty well illuminated and casting shadows from the light coming off of this thing. And then it gets to that moment where Tio gets the word wrong, and there's like a sound, and a crack goes up the side of the crystal, and it breaks and collapses across the torch holder into like just a pile of broken. It's not like a dramatic explosion. It just cracks. The light instantly dissipates from it, and it just falls into a dark heap of broken crystal.
The rest of you really should have sung with us.
Ozana says, "Enough! You will ruin all of our treasure."
Oh, there must be something. I kind of start mumbling to myself, and I wander around looking. I want to look around the big statue and see if I can see any clues. But if somebody else has something else they want to try, go for it.
Can we try putting out the torches?
Sure. Yeah. If there's no objection, the torches are extinguished. Everybody mark a duration on those torches if you have one out. There's a moment where your eyes, you're really used to that super bright torchlight, and you extinguish them, and then there's weird kind of visual brightness that kind of has to fade from your view before you can really take in the way the room is. And this faint, shifting, prismatic light kind of softly illuminates everything, and it's so ambient that there's no, when the torch light lit up, it casts shadows, but in this ambient light, nothing's casting a shadow because of the arrangement of the crystals around the room, and everything, it's so dim that everything ends up taking on a kind of pale gray or washed out kind of quality. Beyond that, nothing is obviously, it has no effect other than kind of creating a different kind of dim light for the room. It's very peaceful.
Is it okay for me to try picking up the broken crystal and just examining it?
Do you ask, or do you want to just go pick it up?
I'll just go pick it up.
Yeah, so you go
see how heavy it is.
So this crystal was roughly the size of a human head, let's say. I mean, narrower than a human head. And it collapsed into, maybe there's two big pieces that are 3 or 4 inches across, and the rest of it is just a pile of broken crystal. And you pick it up, and it's like as if you were picking up a piece of clear quartz. Doesn't seem to be anything special about it. It's not emanating light. And it's just like, it just feels like a piece of broken quartz. And you could certainly, if you wanted to, scoop the whole mess off into your rucksack or whatever, if you wanted to. Anybody else doing anything while Amu investigates the statue? Amu, you don't discern anything. The most notable thing about this, it's dramatic the way that it's carved, as if she's emerging from the wall. Obviously, there was something at one point in the palm of her hand. And I guess you do notice that the statue's not painted. It's just raw stone. And her eyes, because of the way that they're carved and the tilt of her head, she's not looking at what, if there was something held in her hand, she wouldn't be looking at that. She would be looking at from her height, looking down a little bit. So if you stand right in front of her, right in the middle, and her hand is extended, and you're standing kind of in front of the hand, she'd be looking right at you, as opposed to whatever would be in her hand. That's the only thing that you managed to, notice.
If I can I look to see if it looks like there could be any crack or place in the wall that would move?
Yeah, there you do not see anything like that. So you're scrutinizing it fairly closely. I mean, you need to light the torch again to really get a good look. Do you want to do that?
Can I relight this, Saphira? Or do you still want to see
Yeah, no, I mean,
things in the light?
I thought she would watch in the dark, but maybe she's just chilling.
Yeah, so you relight the torch.
Yeah.
And hold it up and examine that wall from various angles, trying to detect any kind of little crack or seam. And you know stonework pretty well, and you can tell that this was carved right out of the rock of the mountain. There's no discernible seam of any kind.
When I walked to that other doorway, you said it's just a passageway leading out of the room?
Yeah.
Can I hold the torch out in front of it and see, do I notice anything down the passage?
The full extent of the torchlight, the passage it's a similar kind of passage to the one that you came through entering the place. And at the end of the torchlight, it just keeps going straight. So it goes straight ahead into darkness.
Is there any anything different? Any wind blowing or sounds or anything?
I would say, well, I'll let you roll perceive at this point. See what you can figure out.
I rolled 9 minus 1, but plus 1 because I'm underground. So 9.
Okay. So that is 1 question. Do you have any question you want to ask about?
Yeah. What I really want to know, I probably can't know the answer to.
Right. You could hold that, and as you advance down the passage, say the question, or you could ask it right now.
I'm going to ask it. Does this passageway lead to a natural cave?
Oh, interesting. So you sniff the air.
Yeah.
Your head. I think you probably hand the torch to somebody else, and they pull it away from the entry to the passageway, so your dwarf sight, so your underground eyes can adjust. And you don't, sometimes there's this very faint smell of, lichen or something, because in these kind of more lived-in areas, they could easily be overgrown at this point too, but they were usually more cared for. There's no moving air to speak of. It's just dead, dusty, still air. So I think the answer to that question would be no. Ozana says we should move forward or back. The way we came back near the entrance where you found us. If you guys remember, it's where she tried to kind of ambush you. There was a larger cavern there that we had not had a chance to explore. There's more, there are other parts of the cave near the entrance that we had not fully explored. Being this deep, I still say we just take what we can from here and get back out the way we came.
I think we should keep going.
Okay.
Down this tunnel. It looks to me like somebody took the good stuff from in here, and I bet there's, just like Amu thought, a cavern full of crystals that haven't been cut yet ahead.
Okay, so that's one vote for going ahead. Evaristo says, I agree with my small friend. So that's 2 votes. Oh, Saphira says yes. Amu, are you down with this idea?
Claudio, what do you say?
I think we should go further in.
Okay, so Ozana is kind of sort of like sets her jaw. Hikes up her backpack and she gets ready to follow you guys.
Brother Brass.
He looks up at you, dazed.
And I can you walk?
He manages to haul himself up onto his feet, and he's a little he's like expressionless. His skin is like just pale, and he steadies himself on the pillar, and he sort of just gives you a nod, and it's markedly different than he was, pretty talkative guy before, so he just gives you a nod that yes, he can walk.
Perhaps Ozana should stay here with him while we go on.
Ozana will agree to that, as long as the her stipulation is that you you return within an hour, basically.
That's fair.
And if you don't come back within an hour, she's just gonna, I will remove all that I can carry, and Brass and I will leave the way we came.
You should probably give us 2.
Okay, she'll agree to that.
Well, she can't carry all 32 of those things, could she?
No, she definitely could not.
Yeah. Shall we?
Okay, so Ozana and Brass staying behind. I think Evaristo will stay with them too, just for the sake of safety and numbers. If that's cool with you guys, unless you want Evaristo as backup. Is that all right?
That's
okay.
Fine.
And you start to make your way down the passage, which is Claudio and Tio in front, Saphira in the middle, and then Amu bringing up the rear. That's what we did last time. Does that make sense, or does somebody else want to be in front?
I have a torch, but I can hand it to somebody else.
Sure, or you can just, from where you're standing, so you guys have one torch in your little group. Yeah, so somebody in the front can carry it. Claudio, Tio.
Should we take one of the crystals? I no, never mind. I don't think I'm down to take anything from this temple area.
Okay.
Scratch that.
Okay. Which one of you guys is going to carry the torch? In the front, Claudio or Tio?
I can do it, I guess.
Yeah. Claudio's got the torch, holding it up high. You proceed down the passage. After about, I guess, right to the point where a little bit past the point where when you look back and the edge of the torchlight, you can't see the entrance to the temple anymore. The passageway angles about 30 degrees. It doesn't curve. It just shifts its angle to the right. You round that corner and you travel another maybe 40 or 50 feet, and you find yourself at you can tell it was a four-way intersection at some point, but all three of the passages besides the one you came down have collapsed. The one to the right and straight ahead, well, the one to the right is like, it just seems like an enormous solid piece of rock blocks the passage, like some major seismic shift or something happened, and that passage seems to be completely blocked off. The other two, it's smaller pieces of rubble and stone, but they are, piled up to the ceiling. The walls themselves are fractured, so they're pretty good rock falls. They seem that. Do you remember that you had to kind of make your way through one when you were in the labyrinth? There was a blocked passage. These seem kind of more substantial in their blockage. Maybe they could be excavated, but it would take a lot of effort. So unless you come up with a way through those, you're essentially at a dead end.
Perhaps there's another part of the mountain, maybe what Ozana mentioned, that we could explore.
So do y'all want to turn back, or does anybody else want to have any thoughts about this intersection?
So we know for sure that there's like no getting through here. Or I guess maybe how long ago did this collapse happen?
From the amount of dust and just detritus that's fallen and settled over the years, there's maybe like a half inch of rock dust accumulated on this stuff. So it's been many years. It has not a recent collapse.
And it's pretty clear we can't get through.
With a lot of effort, and you don't really have any tool, with some levers, some things you could use as levers, like crowbars, that kind of thing. Amu thinks that you could move this stuff, but it would be like a bit of an effort. It might even take like a day or two to even do it, but you could potentially pull it off.
Well, my thigh bone is broken, so I don't know.
Perhaps it is time to take what we found and continue on to the next goal of our journey.
Which are you referring to?
Take some crystal to the snail riders.
Taking it right. Part of the plan was to use some crystals to finance the next leg of the trip, right? And then take some crystals as an offering to the snail riders, or was it?
I think it was just to take it to the snail riders to get them to convey us to the spot.
All right, so that's proposed, and I take it you guys return to the temple. Okay. So Ozana, surprised that you're back so soon. And yeah, everybody wants to know.
You won't believe what we found. The biggest cave of crystals you can imagine. Just kidding.
Ozana stares at you blankly. Yeah, so are you guys gonna vandalize this place?
Amu, how much of this do you think, or which of you guys knows the Snail Riders? Claudio and
Tio.
Amu.
Tio.
Tio. Oh, Tio.
He's
How much
seen them. I don't think he's ever interacted with them.
do we have any idea how much of this stuff it would take to charter a trip?
Well, all I know is that they prize the crystal very heavily. Where they have gotten it, perhaps from the old Nurga ruins that are under the swamps. So no, I don't know.
Ozana says, if we take some of it, we take all of it. We agree to equal shares. We split what we find. Is it 7 ways? Is that where you guys are at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7 ways. Yeah. I do not know what this other purpose you have for these crystals is, but we take them to the city, we sell them, and we split the silver. If you wish to keep crystals instead of silver, we can work something out. There are 7 of us. We can carry all of these out.
Do you have to sing again to get the rest of the crystals out of the...
The singing, I just broke one of them, but earlier Saphira and Evaristo had just lifted one of the ones out of the torch bearers things. So those are just resting in there. The ones on the wall might be able to just kind of be knocked out of their sockets. But the head-sized ones, which were, I think, 4, those appear to be pretty easy to move.
Well, maybe you could take them and just don't break them this time.
Sorry, there's 8 head-sized crystals, not 4. Yeah. Take them, don't break them. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. I say, Kifi Aiti, forgive us, and I would take them.
Do you say that to yourself? Do you say that in front of the statue? Do you just kind of mutter it under your breath?
I say it to the statue, and I also say that I will repay you once the dwarves are wealthy once again.
Great. Okay. I think each of you, there's only 7 of these head-sized crystals left. There's 7 of you. So if each one wants to carry one of those, each one of those is 1 weight. So if you can handle that, if it's not going to overburden you, take one of those, write that down. Looks like Evaristo can carry 1, so he's going to take 1.
I'm going to ditch my bedroll.
Are you sure? I guess you don't care about how
Yeah.
comfortable you sleep.
Well, we can become overburdened, right? You can carry double your
Yes, you
double
can
your
carry
weight.
more, and it just subtracts 1 from any roll that you make while you're burdened. So if you have everything in a backpack, you can just throw off your backpack and do what you need to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can carry up to twice. Great point. And then as far as the smaller ones go, there's 32 of them. Every 4 of them weighs another 1 weight. So again, if we distributed those, can everybody handle another weight?
Yeah.
So that's four of the smaller crystals weighs 1, and that leaves so that'll be 28. Oh, and conveniently, 30, 31, 32. And then there's 1 more group of 4 that if one of you can volunteer to take that spare group. Anybody who's got lots of room.
I'm up to my weight limit, but I could become burdened. That's fine. If
I
nobody
actually have
else.
a lot of. I can carry that extra.
Okay, Claudio, yeah, so make a note of that. You've got that stuff. For the work of kind of knocking everything out of the sockets takes some time. You figure out how to do it. It doesn't take a lot of effort to do it. None of them break. And your packs are pretty much laden, I mean, stuffed full of these things. And by the time, I think that the kind of atmospheric thing that happens is gradually, as you remove them all from the walls and sconces, and then pile them into your packs, the surroundings get darker and darker until the last one gets kind of put away in Claudio's pack, and the only light is the torch light in the room, and everything just seems kind of stark now. There's something soothing about the glow that these things gave off, and now with them all kind of tucked away, the room feels colder and more stark.
Do they glow inside our packs?
They do. They still give off a faint light. In the light of the torchlight is so bright it basically eliminates it. But when you kind of hold the torch away and look at somebody's pack in a dark corner of the room, it does still give off a very faint glow. Yeah, they still seem to emanate that light. And you're gonna head back through the labyrinth.
Can I take one more sip of that fountain water?
Yes, you may. Yeah. Okay. Same. Your that sense you hadn't really diminished. In fact, when you went about trying to chip these things off the wall, you just felt like, yeah, I can do this, no problem. Knock, knock. Too bad your hammer broke, though. That would have been handy to knock those out with.
The hammer broke?
Did your hammer break when you tried to smash that bat?
It did.
Yeah. I need to remind
Crap.
When Tia, when you drink the water, I'm like, what is it? I mean, what is it? It tastes good to you? You feel good? What's going on for you there?
Yeah, I'll like describe the sensation.
All right. God, what did I do to not deserve the delicious visions?
Yeah, that's your jam, those altered states.
Just have to believe.
Ooh. Okay. If there's no further activity,
I have
yes.
one question more, and I go to Brother Brass, and I say, "What do you think this hole in the mountain means?" Do you seem with it?
You mean that the wall carving that you guys we're looking at? Before?
Yeah, the one that had the carving of the mountain that had a hole in it.
He kind of like furrows his brow, and he doesn't even say anything. He's been pretty quiet this whole time, and he just kind of like shakes his head and squints his eyes, almost like he has a headache or something.
Yeah. I wonder what this means, if this is the cave-in or the emptying of the cave, if it lost its center.
It's the crystal. Because didn't we see like a comet? Wasn't there another painting where there was a comet coming down?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So it's the where the crystals come from, right?
Hey, Tia's making some assumptions that maybe not everybody else has considered. Does everybody understand what he means by that?
The crystals come from the sky?
I mean, how else did they get here?
Well, I don't know. Most crystals you find in a cave.
Okay.
And I kind of look at the crystal that we got, and I'm like, does this look like a crystal you'd find in a cave?
Claudio, why don't you guys are going to set out to find your way back through this labyrinth. This is not a ability-based roll. It's just like a general roll. So you don't have to worry about having the right person make this roll. But why don't you roll 2d6?
Okay. Nine.
Okay. And then we roll a d12 for me.
Okay, looking for the 12. $11.
11. Okay. Is any one of you feeling any tension with anybody else in the party, or any kind of annoyance? Any character feeling any friction with anybody else? And it's okay if nobody does, but let me know.
Sorry, my I'm so laggy that it's hard for me to actually talk. But I am feeling very envious of Tio's water situation.
Tio's vision.
I'm kind of in a huff about it.
Okay, hold that thought. I gotta shut the door so the furnace isn't so loud.
I loved your comment, Sophie.
Huh?
I loved your comic.
He loved your comic.
Oh, thanks.
And I voted for you for the Eisner.
I voted for you.
Yeah, you and me, we're gonna be there. Yeah. Okay. So how does that annoyance? I think you guys maybe do you ask him more questions about it? So basically, the thing that happens is that there's some kind of some unfortunate exchange happens between the two of you. So how does that like that envy come out?
I think when he says, like, you have to believe, I'm like, well, you don't even believe in the right Caracalian, you know, if I hadn't given you the delicious lichen earlier.
Are you, so is this like a kind of, are you actually expressing this to him, or are you keeping it to yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of, sort of, yeah, not incredibly forcefully, but kind of mumbling it.
Okay. So the net effect of that, I think, is that in order for, if you and Tio are ever going to keep company, he's going to have to make amends somehow. He's going to have to somehow make up for making that comment and for enjoying that enlightenment without your company, making you feel bad. So that little bit of bad blood now exists between you guys. It's relatively easy to follow your trail through the dust on the way back. You make your way through that collapsed corridor. It's a pretty straightforward journey. You have to slide back down that. Remember, there was that area you had to ascend. You had to slide back down that. You managed to do all of that without injury, and before, within a couple of hours, you'll make your way back to the room where poor Teresa was crushed a couple days ago, and carefully pick your way through those floor tiles that appeared to trigger that trap. And then, so we got a mark duration on that torch. Whoever's got the torch.
Yep.
So you're in that room, and this is the room, that trap room, where off to one side was the little cave, the side cave with the little waterfall and the shrine. So you guys can refill your water skins there. And then Ozana, so there, if you recall, in this trap room, there was a hole in the floor that descended down, and I think Amu had investigated that hole earlier. Was unclear. I think, you didn't drop a torch down there, but you managed to determine that there was a ground maybe 20 or 25 feet below.
That's what I have written down, yeah.
Okay. So then you make your way back out into the cave. At this point, I think when you guys went in, it was kind of midday. I think it's nighttime outside, so you can feel the air blowing in from the actual. It's a relief for everybody who's not a dwarf to smell fresh air from the outside again, and you're back in that kind of first entry cave. And in fact, some of you probably want to step outside and look up at the stars. So it's quite late at night. The stars are just like, you are reminded that the stars have a crystalline clarity to them on this night. And there's a cold, sweet breeze kind of blowing between the mountains there. And it's probably a good place to make camp, actually, so that you can rest up. So everyone needs to eat a ration. I think our total pool was 16. So let's just keep one. Ozana is Brass is pretty much out of it, but Ozana is fine with everybody kind of sharing, even though they're the ones who had the most food between them. Okay. So out of 16 rations, that takes you down to 9. Is there going to be a little fire? Are you guys going to eat cold food?
I would like a fire. So
I think to make a fire, somebody's gonna have to go outside, down the slope into the woods, and find some wood to do that with, which is doable within. You can totally do that, but there need to be a little firewood expedition outside.
Yeah, how far down is it to the woods?
I mean, there and back, gathering wood. Maybe it'll take you. If there's wood to be found, you basically have to roll to see if you can find enough. All things going well, it would maybe take you an hour, 45 minutes.
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tio?
if Saphira would like fire, then I will go get some wood to start a fire.
Oh, already trying to
Mm-hmm.
make things better.
We don't know what lives in these woods. Remember those birds that came out during the day? Wonder what might come out at night.
I sort of tighten the
Pants.
bastard rat
Oh, like the
helmet
little-
around my head and say I'm not worried. And I'll trek off to go gather some firewood.
Like by starlight, like you're just gonna go quietly and stealthily and.
Can I take one of the smaller crystals? Does that even give off enough light to?
It wouldn't give off enough light to really see it. I mean, there's no moon out, but the starlight is actually fairly. Once your eyes adjusted, you could find your way around. And if you're just looking for wood, you don't have to have super clear vision. But so you could do it. You could do it basically stealthily. The crystal wouldn't really help you.
Right.
Or you could take a torch with you, and obviously that would draw attention because of the torch, but it'd be super easy to see stuff.
I guess I would probably do it stealthily. Okay. Yeah.
But Tio's gonna head out solo unless anybody else wants to object to that. Besides Amu's warning.
Don't be a fool.
Is that your word of your parting wisdom?
Yeah.
Don't be.
I can go with you, Tio, to help you gather wood if you think you need extra.
The more arms, the bigger the fire.
Okay, so you're cool with that? Okay, great. Great. So you guys are going to go on a little firewood expedition. Awesome. And this one, Tio, roll 2d6.
It's a 6.
Nice. Okay. And then a d12.
10.
Okay. You guys get about halfway down the slope, and you actually you veer off the slope towards these kind of sparse fir trees that are growing up the slope towards where you assume there's going to be some dead wood that you can collect. And a light rain starts. And by the time you get into the woods and start, feeling your way around, some clouds have come in over the mountain that you guys were just inside. So the sky was completely clear and full of bright stars, and then from out of sight over the mountains, a whole raft of clouds comes and rain starts falling harder until there's a pretty good downpour happening while you're in amongst these trees. And the other effect being that it's pretty dark because the stars are covered up. So it's pouring rain. It's pitch dark, and you are trying to recover wood. And in those circumstances, yeah, so I guess there you are. You haven't quite gathered. You've gotten some sticks, but not enough for a real good fire. And the question is basically, do you keep looking for more? Right now, it's really not enough to have a fire. Or turn around and head back while you still kind of can pretty clearly find your way back to the cave entrance.
I'm happy to keep looking.
Okay.
But
Claudio's nodding.
Yeah.
All right. So Tio, Claudio is helping you, and you're gonna roll. I think this is just gonna be I think with your kind of your wilderness kind of knowledge, it's just going to be wisdom. Finding the right kind of density of trees and stuff to find what you're looking for, and to like find the dry stuff, right? Because it's pouring rain now, so it's going to be a wisdom roll to do that.
Okay. It's a 7 + 1.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So you guys gather up a couple armloads of wood, and you're on your way back. Still pouring rain, and you look down the slope because you didn't ever descend all the way to the bottom of the valley where that where the waterfall was, the big waterfall. You've been on the slope this whole time, but as you're making your way back through the trees, and it's like I said, pitch black and pouring rain. So you're basically like feeling your way through the trees, and you're relying on your sense of direction to get you back towards the cave. You look down to the right, and you see something glowing. Tio, you think it's maybe 50 yards away down the slope. So near the valley floor, you see a number of different kind of glowing lights moving kind of in the same direction as you at a relatively slow pace. And some of them are moving at slightly different speeds, and they're kind of bobbing up and down a little bit. If your estimate of distance is right, these lights, each one of them might be just a couple of inches in diameter.
So not like torchlight.
No, the glow is kind of whitish.
So not like the crystals either.
Not dissimilar to the crystals. Brighter than the crystals, but not out of the, maybe in the same kind of spectrum, or close in the spectrum, I should say. And so they're just these little bobbing, glowing lights kind of moving along roughly at the same pace as you in the same direction, not coming uphill, but like parallel to you.
Would we be able to make it back to the entrance of the cave and still see them, or?
You'll be kind of cutting uphill, so you can keep an eye on them, and the way you'll be going back to the cave will take you further away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just keep an eye on them and see, if you still can see them as you head back there.
Okay. I think we should do that, but I'll nudge Claudio and make sure.
Yeah, so Claudio, you're seeing the same thing. You're noticing the same stuff.
Right. I don't want to fight this.
Yeah. So head back towards the camp, but keep an eye on everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you find your way back through the woods. There's the sense when you get to the edge of the tree line that the space opens up again, and then up the slope, the kind of outline of the mountain against the distant sky where there's no storm clouds gives you some sense of where you're headed. And then you have the slope occasionally casting glances back, and you hear, actually, the rain lets up for a moment, and you hear, and then and you see those lights. They haven't gotten any closer to you, and they're still kind of moving at a relatively slow pace, and they're not even moving in a particular direction anymore. They seem to be kind of moving here and there, I guess I would say. And then you guys make it back to the cave entrance. And you've got wood for a fire.
So I'll plop the wood down and tell Amu that there was nothing to worry about. And I think we found the cows that don't have any grass to eat.
What?
I'll just like grab your hand and like kind of lead you down towards the lights, so we can see them. Not like to them, but just
Yeah.
yeah.
You leave the cave mouth on, and so right outside the cave mouth is a relatively flat area, and then the slope descends, and there's this switchback path that goes down towards the water, way down at the bottom there. So you lead them out onto that kind of first platform, and maybe down onto the path a little bit, and indicate down towards the bottom of the valley. And Amu, you see these same things, these faint. It's all super dark, and it's still raining, but through the rain, you can make out these faint lights, kind of moving here and there in the distance. And I think Ozana comes out to see what's up. Evaristo comes out. Everybody's curious about what's going on.
Why do you call these cows?
They mooed.
I listen towards them. Is that a cow? Does sound like it doesn't have much grass to eat. I'm going to go out a little farther down the slope and just kind of sit down there and hold my hands like this and just sort of listen to see if I can, and watch the lights to see if I can discern anything.
I'll go too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the two folks of diminutive stature descend partway down the slope and sit down in the rain. I'm assuming nobody else is joining you. Everybody else is probably keeping their distance. So the rain, it's the downpour is let up, and it's a little more of just like a drizzle. You're both soaking wet and cold, but not necessarily shivering, and you're sitting there on the slope, really trying to tune out the sound of the pattering rain. And you hear more of these low, one could describe them as mooing sounds from down below, as the lights kind of shift and move about.
It's just like your stories.
But what are they doing out at night? And is
Looking
somebody
for grab.
shepherding them? Yeah. Somebody shepherding them?
You don't think them showing up here has anything to do with us taking these crystals, do you? Like the bats?
No. I'm so curious, but then the idea of descending down into the darkness in a totally uncharted wilderness with strange mystical beasts around makes me nervous. I'm going to get a little bit closer.
Okay. Like close enough where do you want to just get closer and closer until the situation changes, or?
Yeah, well, I want to see if I can see what those lights are. Okay. And if there actually is like a cow being led to them or something like that.
Without another, well, let's see here. Why don't you roll luck?
I rolled an 11, and I have a -1.
Okay, great. So you start to, make your way down the hillside. Tio, are you accompanying or hanging back?
For sure, going with. Yeah.
Meanwhile, up top, Ozana and Saphira and Claudio have got a fire going, and you guys are eating some food. And Saphira, Ozana, and Claudio. So there's three of you guys. Bras is basically lying down and sleeping. Evarista is there too. And Ozana says, "Where did you meet this dwarf?" Just to whoever, to the crowd, to the group of you.
In the city, right? We met him in the city, or in the city.
Yes,
I
and
think so.
did you bring him because he she has knowledge of this place? You have some
Yeah.
other.
That was the idea.
Yeah, she's the one who brought us.
Her songs and stories certainly guided us. It was more intuitive and less intellectual.
She knows only something of her people's past. This song that she sang that shattered the crystal. Are these the sorts of songs that does she know spells?
I haven't seen anything of that nature. I think that may have been the magic of the place, and perhaps not the dwarf.
And the blue-haired one, you believe in the same God, but you have very different ways of thinking and talking about this God.
Yes, well, don't many followers in your world have different ideas about their deities?
Most of the faiths I have encountered, especially among my own people, are quite strict in their interpretations. So Claudio and Saphira, will you guys roll to keep company with Ozana? So that's 2d6. If you already have a bond, Saphira, you have one bond already with Ozana? Yeah, so you get to add one to the roll because of that bond, because you have that bond.
Okay, I got a 7, including the bond.
Okay. So you can gain another bond with Ozana. You can give her a bond with you. And you haven't marked any bonds. But so those would be your choices with that. You could gain a second bond, or you could give her a bond with you, which means it would be easier for her to help you.
I'll give her a bond with me.
And then Claudio?
I only got a 6.
You got a 6.
Hmm.
So you get XP, so mark an XP. And I'm supposed to say why. It seems like Ozana's suspicious of you. Like she's having this conversation with the three of you there. But as just happened actually with this interaction with Saphira, you've noticed, and it makes you realize this whole time that you've been traveling together, Ozana has kind of not really looked at you directly or spoken to you directly. So you sense a kind of a kind of coolness, if not frigidity, from her. I'm not sure what's up with that. Maybe there's some kind of prejudice against, you know, who knows what. Maybe it's men, maybe it's facial hair, who knows. But for whatever reason, Ozana is seems a little averse to you.
I sensed it.
You sensed it, yes, you did. Okay, Amu and Tio, you're maybe about 20 yards away from the bottom of the path, and the storm passes, and the starlight illuminates the valley again, and you see a number of perhaps a dozen large shapes. Some of them are standing still. Some of them are at the water's edge. A few of them are kind of moving, ambling kind of slowly about. They do indeed appear to be large bovine creatures, and by large I mean they're taller than either one of you. In fact, they're bigger than a kind of domesticated cow. Their shoulder would be about as high as Claudio's shoulder. So a standing adult human male, these cattle have shoulders as high as that. So they're pretty big, and they're pretty, in the light reflecting off the water, you can see their silhouettes, and they appear to be somewhat skinny as far as cows go. They're not well fed. And the glowing things are areas of their bodies, irregular areas of their bodies where crystals are protruding from their flesh and glowing in different spots. So, you know, like you see one that has like one kind of coming out behind its ear, and another one where it's, you know, it's got this really bony shoulder, and there's like a weird crystal kind of sticking out of that. So there appear to be these crystalline growths on their bodies, and they don't notice you or they don't care about you. Oh.
As far as I see it, we have two options.
Are you saying this to Amu?
Yeah. One, this is a cool experience. We go back, eat our dinner, go to sleep, explore the cave, try to find some more crystals. Two, we put these cows out of their misery and take their crystals and go find the snail riders. What do you say, Amu?
I don't know that we even could if we wanted to. Look at how huge they are. I feel sorry for them. I would feed them if I could.
Their name in Nurga comes back to you. They are the Valoisa Yatilainen.
These cows are, with the crystals growing out of their heads, are something that I've heard of before.
Well, if they are in fact the cows from the song that you sang.
Oh, yeah.
The songs had nothing about crystals. The songs and the stories that
Yeah.
you heard about them had nothing to say about crystals, but they were just cows that were lean because of the lack of enough grass.
Yeah.
Do you think if we fed them, they would give us a crystal?
Or maybe some milk. Yeah.
What do these cows eat?
Depends on how hungry they are. I'm going to take out, I guess, a loaf of bread from Peniscalto and break off a chunk of it. And what is the name of the cow?
It's too long to pronounce.
Yeah,
You could just call them the Valoisa. Let's just call them that.
Valoisa. And I just say, oh, Valoisa. Valoisa. Like you would call a cow back home, because I'm a farmer.
Right, right.
First
and you have
and
a
foremost.
you have a hunk of bread.
Yeah, I have a hunk of bread, and I just call the cow like I would call the cows back home when I'm calling them to the barn.
Cautiously approach.
Cautiously approach, and
Are you sure they don't eat the crystals?
Ooh. We'll see.
Roll charisma.
My charisma is 5. But I rolled a 12.
Oh, yes. Wait, so 5 is -2, 12 -2 is 10. Excellent. The nearest one, you say the name the second time, and it sort of turns its head towards you and sort of gently sort of ambles over, and it's towering over you. This thing is at least twice as tall as you. So this large, dark shape silhouetted against the stars and kind of like makes its way over, and you see up close that they're kind of shaggy. They're not like the lowland cows, right? They have pretty heavy coats on, and they have it has maybe the stories didn't talk about this, and it's a complete surprise to you, but it has 2 trunks, like 2 flexible trunks, and what it reaches out for the bread with is one of these trunks. So it reaches out and plucks it sort of sniffs, the trunk kind of sniffs the hunk of bread you've got, and then pulls it out of your hand and kind of curls back and sticks it into its the mouth on the underside of its head. And up close you can see a few more of these. You can see the growths more clearly. And the light's reflecting in their in its kind of big dark eyes, and it's kind of half-lidded eyes as it chews on this hunk of bread.
Does it have an udder?
You want to get down and get a little closer there? You want to move along the side and take a look?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think it'll allow you to do that since you wooed it a little. Yes, this one does have an udder, which is not full. It's not. It's there, but it's not like ready to be milked or anything. A couple other ones kind of amble over towards you, and as you are standing next to it, it turns its head, and one of the trunks kind of comes over and starts to kind of investigate you. Starts to kind of like, move around, checking you out.
Yeah.
Ask it for a crystal.
And I say, yeah, good girl. Do you remember the Nurga? And I say to her, are there any more Nurga here? Do they live here still?
So now maybe 4 of them are kind of all over you. And Tio, you're standing back from all this, but you see diminutive Amu surrounded by these large creatures, and they're all kind of like, not only one of them is actually touching her with their trunk, but the other ones are kind of have their trunks out and are kind of like sniffing around. They're all sort of interested in paying attention, but none of them responds to your question, Amu.
And I say to Tio, they know the dwarves. You can see they know us. And then I get the rest of the bread and I kind of like hold it up to share it out to all the other trunks, see if they want any.
Yeah, so there's some grabbing and pulling, and they easily take apart that loaf of bread. So mark off another ration. And now there's like 6 of them kind of around and very interested in you. And you have to kind of back up a little bit to not get surrounded. So you kind of take a few steps back up the hillside.
Yeah. Maybe we can lead them back to the cave. Do you think they would come with us?
So you're gonna start heading up the hillside. They do, at least these 6 are very slowly starting to follow you. And you make it all the way back up to the cave. That's your goal.
Yeah.
They all, at their own sort of pace, they climb up. You can tell from the way that they move, they're very used to moving on these hillsides in their own kind of slow way. And the firelight emanating from the cave kind of lights them up as you get close to it. And the people inside the cave, hear the sounds of them coming and are clearly looking out and curious. And half a dozen of these animals then are up, and you're standing on that kind of flat area right outside the cave mouth. And so they're all kind of standing there too, with their trunks kind of gently waving around. In this light, you can see their eyes are almost completely dark. When one looks to one direction, you can see a little bit of white. So they're not super creepy, but they're definitely stranger than most livestock you've seen. They don't seem threatening, but they definitely want more of that food that you were giving them.
I brought some cows.
We found rides back to the city.
Yeah, so these cows are about 6 feet high, bony, covered in matted fur, and kind of brownish gray. Some of the fur is like white, and all over them in different places there are these crystals kind of poking out of them.
Wow, Amu, will you take them to your people? Do you think they would survive the journey?
Take them where?
To your people.
Oh.
You could start a whole new place of worship with these cows.
This is a good idea. They're so slow. It might take a while. And I kind of look over at the cows, and I try to reach out to one and see if it lets me touch it.
Like reach
like
out,
a domestic cow.
like reaching out for you to be smelled, or are you reaching out to kind of pat it on the side?
Let it smell my hand, and let it, and then see if I can pat it on the trunk, or
Yeah. The first one,
see how friendly they are.
Evaristo says, "Wonderful," and you the one that you first saw was very responsive, and quite comfortable with you moving closer and reaching up to, I mean, at your height, you're kind of reaching up to pat the kind of front of its body where, you know, its furry hide, and you can feel its leathery trunk. And as you're doing that, it's with its trunks, it's kind of still kind of like gently kind of feeling you out. And in fact, one of them, it kind of like pulls on your, there's like maybe you're wearing something with a strap, it kind of pulls on the strap and kind of appears to be searching your body for
as he's doing that, I want to see if if I could touch one of the crystals.
Ah, okay. Yep.
And I'm particularly curious to see if they're loose at all, if they might fall off, or if they're just you know, part of their body.
Yeah, so you're patting it on the front, and you reach up. There's one kind of on its near its shoulder, and you have to reach pretty high up over your head. And you know, you're patting it, and you feel it and kind of feel through the fur that it's sticking out from, and you feel down to the surface of its hide, and just try to jiggle it a little bit, and it the animal kind of turns slightly when you do that. Not surprised, not in pain, but it notices that you're fiddling with this thing, and it feels pretty firmly attached to it, perhaps growing out of a bone under its hide.
And I say to everybody, I think these are the bones of this creature. Valuisa.
Should we not slaughter them? Says Ozana. Totally the wrong accent for her. Should we not slaughter them?
The size of the crystals, how do they compare to the ones, and the brightness to what we already have?
They're none of them is bigger than the small ones you guys have. Most of them are smaller. So most of them are you know, little things jutting out maybe that big.
Okay.
It is a gift from these gods of which you speak. Food for many days and treasure from their very bodies. Is this not what you would call a blessing in your belief?
Perhaps, but something makes me feel sorry for these animals. Perhaps if they're willing, I would bring them back with us, or see where they live. If there is indeed a shepherd, we could meet them. But Claudio, your sister is down one cow. And I told her that we would get you a new cow. And, well, maybe this would be a good replacement.
I do wonder what she would say.
So you
Well,
wish
they seem to like you, Amu.
they're hanging back from the. They don't seem to want to approach any closer to the cave entrance, and they're not getting aggressive. But all their attention is definitely on Amu, because Amu was the source of the food there.
I wish I had some straw. Anyhow, I don't really know what to do with these things, but I would probably just sit and watch these cows, and I mean, it's the middle of the night still. I think we're all supposed to go to sleep.
And that may very well happen, but is Amu just going to continue to commune with the animals, which is totally fine?
Yeah, for a bit. I want to watch them for a while just to make sure that they're not going to do something weird too.
Okay.
But also see if they leave or if they hang out.
Okay.
I'm kind of fascinated by them.
Is everybody else comfortable with bedding down? Is anybody uncomfortable about these these creatures? Okay, so time to pass the night. Saphira, let's have you roll this one. Roll 2d6. Seven? Is that right? 7? Okay. Okay. And then would you roll a d12, please? One. Okay. So everybody kind of curls up by the fire, lays down. Amu's going to stay awake for a while and have like first watch as paying attention to the creatures. Everybody else goes to sleep, and Amu, after a while, two of them kind of like sit down right near you, still kind of outside of the, sort of at the edge of the kind of flat area, and go to sleep right near you. And the rest of them sort of amble, partway down the hillside and find their own places to kind of lie down. And the watch order, I'm going to say, yeah, so and then they sort of, that seems to be the state of things. So it seems like it's okay for you to go to sleep at that point, Amu.
All right.
Okay. And then Claudio, on your watch, you are where, I guess, given the situation you guys in, what do you keep watch out on the platform, out in the open air, or inside the cave? Where do you think you're kind of keeping watch, or kind of walking around from place to place? How would you describe your watch?
I'd probably do a little more like wandering out into the open.
Okay.
Sort of curious about the cows.
Okay. Yeah, so you go out and see them kind of like, they're not snoring, whatever cows do. They're probably pretty quiet when they sleep out there. And it's a funny sight to see Amu the dwarf kind of sleeping with these two enormous creatures in a semicircle right by her. And so you're out there and you pause for a good few minutes, kind of looking at that and looking up at the stars, listening. From at this time of night, you can hear very distantly the sound of that giant waterfall down below. And just when from your perspective, pretty high up in the mountains, you have a pretty broad view to the east. So when the sky over there starts to lighten, it's a very, very distant horizon that's starting to lighten. And you realize it's about time to switch over to the last shift, which is Tio. So you turn around and you go back in this cave, and Brother Bros is missing. He's not where he was sleeping. So what do you do?
Are there any other footprints around, or
You guys are in the cave itself. It's all stone, so there's no real footprints per se. And from that entry cave, there were two ways out. There was the way you guys went towards the temple, and then there was this other tunnel that went towards this cavern where you first encountered Ozana and Ross.
Oof. Yeah, I would probably wake up Amu first. Wait, Amu's further away. I'd wake up Tio first.
Okay.
Senior.
Okay, so Claudia wakes you up, Tio.
Tio. Ross is missing. I went out to the plains, and when I returned, I couldn't find him. What do we do?
I would wake up Ozana immediately.
Okay.
Your friend's missing. Your friend's missing.
What? Who was on watch?
I'm not going to respond.
It was me. It was me. I didn't see where it went.
You. I will. Do you think? But do you think he went outside?
I didn't see him out there. He probably went back into the cave.
She goes and she grabs a flaming brand from the campfire. I will go this way. You a short distance. You go back towards the temple. See what you can see. I will go this way. And she heads off. We come back in 5 minutes. She heads off so it's basically to the right towards the temple, left towards this cavern she was in before.
Maybe you should follow her to you.
I'm gonna go with her. Yeah.
You're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Do I notice the what's going on? Or am I sleeping through
No,
this?
you're asleep. You and Saphira are both asleep, and Evaristo. You guys are all asleep. If you don't get a restful night, you're not going to get your hit points back. I don't know who's hurt right now. I can't remember, but
I'm very hurt.
Oh no! Although you were on watch, so it doesn't necessarily discount against your restful sleep. This was part of the plan so far. Okay, so you go back towards the trapped room, and Tio and Ozana go the other way. Claudio, you get to the. What's your source of light? Did you grab something from the fire too?
I probably should if I'm going to go look for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get back into the room where the trap was, and you poke you take a few steps towards that cave where the little waterfall was. There's no sign of him in there, and then there's no sign of him in the trap room. So then your next thing would be to like pick your way through the trapped floor and then go head towards the temple. Are you going to do that, or are you going to turn back?
Has it been 5 minutes?
I think it'll be pretty close to 5 minutes.
I'll turn back.
Okay. Theo, you and Ozana walk through. You walk through a narrow opening, and then you get into this kind of bigger space, which is where Ozana ambushed you. And then as you proceed, it kind of gets bigger, and you're on a kind of it's a natural cave, but a stone walkway has been kind of built, almost like, just picture it like a paved path almost on the floor of this cave. And from the light, at first the light of the brand kind of lights up and you can see the walls of the cave, but then as you move further, the walls, it gets bigger and bigger, so the light no longer illuminates the wall, and you're in a pretty big space. And this walkway starts to slope up. So you're climbing up this slope, The cave floor itself is very irregular and natural, but the path that the Nurga built is very straightforward in a series of very broad steps. It gets kind of steeper, and there's a series of broad steps. And you're wondering at this point whether you should turn back, but Azana is continuing to kind of push forward. Do you want to just, you're not, you might be pushing it a little bit. It's not like you're going to be super late. You could keep going or.
I will just ask her if they've explored this area yet.
We saw these stairs, but we had not yet climbed. We don't know what's at the top. Perhaps he came back to find out. Perhaps he.
We should head back. If it's dangerous, we shouldn't go just the two of us. We should get everyone else and continue. Yep. Okay.
Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
And maybe Claudio has found him.
Okay.
In the other area.
So she, there's like just a moment's hesitation, but she, pretty quickly, agrees that that's the right thing to do. And you guys arrive back at the cave where the fire is, and Claudio is there. And information is exchanged.
We didn't find him. But this cave's pretty cool.
Should we wake up the others?
Okay, so Saphira and Amu and Evaristo are all awakened. Oh, there's a big hairy two-trunked cow. Nice.
It needs crystals. Okay. What's going on?
Brass is gone.
I think he must have gone back to look for more crystal.
I don't know. He seems to be acting awfully strange.
Since the attack.
Is his pack there still?
Yes, he left his pack. Yep, his pack is there.
Was he possibly taken?
There's certainly no sign of any kind of struggle, and you were. I mean, if he was taken, it was by something very quiet. There was no, because you were not that far away, and you didn't hear anything. Azana says his faith. He is a seeker of knowledge. The place we have not yet explored. Perhaps this is where he went. The cavern that he and I had only seen the beginnings of. That is my best guess.
Did you search the trapped room and the hole in the ground?
Is that the side that I explored?
Yeah.
I did, but I didn't see anything. Could he have gone without and not wanted to wait for us?
I think his mind is broken.
Hmm.
He must be confused.
Well, you know him, Ozana. We should follow your instinct.
Very well. This way then. After me. And she drops the brand and relights a torch for something more substantial, and leads the way into this other cavern.
Should we maybe tie up your new friends?
I don't know.
Well, you know, like you would a horse, like
Hog tie him, like
not hog tie them.
oh.
Not hog tie them, like,
Right.
like you would like
Yeah.
a horse or something. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think we have time. I don't know if they're going to agree with that.
Hitch them. You want to hitch
them? Yeah. There you go. Hitch them.
Yeah. They are sound asleep, so you're they're going to ransack your camp. While you guys
No, just so they don't wander away.
Oh, sure.
No time for that. Let's go.
Okay.
So Azana leads you guys back into this cavern, holding the torch aloft, and then you start to ascend these same stairs as before, and it's a good long distance that you're going up. It's a pretty low angle, so the stairs are pretty broad, and this whole time, the torchlight does not illuminate the cavern walls on the sides, which you assume are there, but you do have this sense of this kind of growing space as you move further into it. This kind of ever expanding kind of space around you, and you reach the top of the stairs, and you're on a platform on some kind of. So if you picture the slope going up, and you've reached kind of the crest of the slope, and you find yourself on a broad square platform. To the left, the walkway continues level along this kind of ridge towards another platform off to your left. The torchlight kind of barely illuminates that, and so you have this crest. On the far side, it descends. The slope kind of goes down. Beyond the kind of globe of your torchlight, Ozana's torchlight, everything is vast blackness. But in the far distance, and Tio, you've probably got the best eye for distance. You're going to say probably, well, it's actually really hard to tell at the scale, but maybe somewhere between half a mile, somewhere between a quarter and a half a mile away from you in this space, this vast underground space. You see a shaft of very faint light coming in at an angle from some hole in the ceiling. So somewhere out there in this great open space, in the distance, through the darkness, you see this kind of shaft of light coming down. So you guys pause there, and then you notice there's this other platform off to the left, and from that platform, actually you can't see much beyond that, but Ozana is starting to move down this walkway towards the second platform. And she gets there, and you guys look down. From there, down this slope into this huge space, is another set of stairs, very broad stairs, kind of descending. And in the darkness there, in line with the stairs that you're looking down, you see the glow of one of those head-sized crystals, sort of held aloft, and from the faint glow, you can see that someone is holding it. Probably 100 yards away, or no, more like 50 to 75 yards away, a little more than half of a football field away.
There he is.
That must be him. And she starts to head down the stairs. I assume everybody's following along, unless somebody has reservations.
Sure.
And as you approach with the torch, it does appear to be Bros. And he's crouched down. He's set the crystal down on the ground beside him, and he's peering at something on the ground, off of the walkway. So this stairwell that you're on is on the natural rock, and he's on the stairwell, peering off of it onto the surface of the cavern floor, with the illumination of this crystal. And you guys sort of slow your pace as you approach because it seems to be okay. It doesn't seem to be in imminent danger. Ozana says, "Brass, what are you doing?" And he turns and looks over at you, somewhat expressionless, with the light of the crystal kind of illuminating his face, and points at something. Doesn't say anything and just kind of points at it. So you guys draw closer and you kind of get a look at what he's pointing at, and it is I think the best way to describe it was like, so everybody knows what a pill bug is, right? Tiny little bug, lots of legs, and a kind of I don't even know what you would call it, that kind of like shell, but that kind of segmented shell body that it has. It looks like a black pill bug, about the size, about that big, the size of two hands put together, on the ground of the floor of the cavern, kind of facing. It has these two little antenna on one side of it, and it's facing Brass. And it's just barely, it seems totally still. But then after a moment, you see that its antenna are moving very, very, almost imperceptibly. And it's maybe moving very slowly, but it might as well be still. What is this? You're bug hunting? You're hurt. You must come back to camp with us. And then he talks for the first time in a long time, and he says, "It's amazing. Look at it." Does anybody do what he asks? Get closer?
For sure. I'll get closer and look.
So do you stay on the walkway where he is and peer at it? Do you step
I'll
off?
like lean over his shoulder.
Okay, lean over his shoulder.
Yeah.
You see that the ground to the left side of the creature is a different texture than the ground to the right side of the creature. So if you drew, I know, right? If here's this thing, and it's just imagine it facing the path perpendicular. If you drew a line straight back from it, everything to the left of that has like it looks to you just like at first glance, just like it has like a granulated or etched kind of texture to it.
He's mowing the lawn.
Let's call it. That's a great way to describe it. That's a great way to describe it, actually, in terms of. Yeah. In fact, that's somewhat of the pattern that you discern is like a series of these lines. To the right, the cave floor seems the same as it has elsewhere where you were walking. And then, what's your wisdom? T.O. Wisdom 15. Okay.
15.
And he looks up at you and he says, "Do you see? Closer." And he gets down closer and gestures for you to really, staying on the walkway to really get in there close.
I'm a little creeped out, but Tio wouldn't get closer for sure. Like not scared of a bug. There's bigger bugs in the swamp. No big deal.
Bug mowing the lawn, no big deal.
Yeah.
So then what you perceive in this difference in pattern is that the thing itself is in fact just barely, it's moving at a really, really slow rate. And the ground that it has covered, which as far as you can tell is this vast area, extends past the diameter of the torchlight, right off into the darkness. What's leaving behind, what it is doing to the floor of the cavern, it appears to be making incredibly intricate pattern of some kind, like a really dense, nothing that you recognize, not a like motif that you recognize, but it's like a series of tiny little, when you get really close, it almost looks like a drawing of a labyrinth or something like that, right? With tiny little curves and angles and shapes and interlocking, and you realize that this entire surface of this cavern floor, which the creature has covered, has been turned into this pattern, for lack of a better word. And then anybody else who chooses to peer close would see.
Yeah, I'll say, Saphira, Evaristo, look, come look. The spirals.
There are in fact perceptible teeny tiny little spirals amongst all of the other little markings. There are definitely spirals recurring in different forms and configurations throughout.
I'll lean in for a look.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
The gods must be speaking to us. Someone must read these signs. There's nothing like this in the books of Asabio. I've known of no record of this kind of pattern, but surely it has meaning.
What is the landscape that the cave that we've moved through? Is it like stalactites and stalagmites and
This
or
this particular cave is not a limestone cave, so it doesn't have stalagmites and stalactites. In fact, none of the water cave where the shrine to the water god was, there was some of those formations in there. But this cave is just like big flat, or not flat necessarily, but big expanses of rock. Broken apart, millions of years ago by who knows what. But it's not a limestone cave. Big, open, cold spaces.
Can we see like how far? It's just this one bug.
You see one bug.
And like how far it's made this pattern? Is this on the? You said this was down from that platform.
We're on
right?
the slope heading down from the. That's right. There's like you rose up. There was a crest, and now you're descending into this enormous space. And currently, you're looking at it. The slope's not super steep where you are. It's maybe like that. So you're on this walkway, on one of the steps of this walkway, looking over the side, and where you're looking at the cave floor is sloped up towards that ridge. And you grab the torch and you walk down the walkway, maybe 15 or 20 feet, holding it out to see. And as far as you can see, this pattern is etched into the ground.
No other bugs.
Not that you can see, but it's an enormous space.
And it's like working its way back up to the platform.
That looks that way, yeah.
Okay. I think I might like run over and pray to this little bug. Or I mean, I guess it would be I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I'm actually trying to do anything other than.
Sure. Are you down on favor at all?
Yeah, I only have 2.
I mean, you could. This could be a way that you are actually praying, but it would be communing with Caracol through this bug, or with this bug as like a sign of Caracol or something.
Yeah,
If you
I'm
wanted
just
to.
kind of like.
Or you could worship the bug on its own terms if you don't want to involve Caracol here.
Or maybe maybe I would like try to invoke Caracol again through the bug for some understanding.
Okay.
I guess just trying to understand like what's going on, and it like is pretty clearly some sort of sign, but it's not clear what is actually going on here. So
And you're seeking some clarity or understanding.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. You can totally do that. Ooh.
I want to talk to the bug.
And you're asking Caracol, and it falls within Caracol's domains. Obviously, it's not wetland related, but it's change and transformation because the bug is transforming the
and yeah, making it spirally.
I think to get the answer to this question, I mean, so what is it? I think that's hubris 3.
Okay.
And you get +1 for wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And you have your holy symbol.
Yep.
So you're rolling at a total of -1.
Okay. Do I have to wait, I just use favor to invoke, right? Or do
You
I
don't
use
have to, but you can use it to bonus
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
increase your roll.
And I have to say that beforehand?
Yes.
Okay. Then I will use one more favor to make it an even.
Just, yep.
Does that
+6.
work?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Shit.
Oh, boy.
I rolled 2 1s.
All right. Well, you get an experience point. So mark that down.
I get an experience point?
Yeah. Sometimes when you fail, you get XP.
Whoa, okay.
When you ask your god, you learn what not to ask your god for.
Yeah.
Huh. I got lots of choices here. Okay, so and real quickly, what you're sort of next to Bros, and you're looking at this bug, and you're down on your knees, and
I think I would be like right up next to the bug, like
as
close as I can get to the bug without interfering with its.
So you're going to step off onto the floor of the cavern, but maybe not on the pattern above.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you actually step off, and Bros looks at you for a second in surprise, and you get right down on the ground, and you get really close to that bug. Your face is right up against that bug. You smell kind of a like a oily. There's like in our world it's similar, like a crude oil smell. And do you say something out loud, or what is your actual? Is it a silent communion?
I think I would talk to it like it was Caracol.
Okay.
And say, "Oh, great Caracol, show us, what you mean by all this." I don't know. I can't think of a fun way to say it, but yeah.
Oh boy. so you do that, and there's a moment where you sort of utter that, and there's a moment where you're kind of open to possibility, and you're open to the answer, and you're kind of ready for it. And then it feels like the totally wrong thing to have done. It feels like you can you feel the manifestation of Caracol's it feels like incredibly inappropriate for you to do what you're doing. and all of a sudden you realize that in the eyes of your god, this thing that you're looking at is an aberration. It is like not meant to be, and that you must destroy it. So the and if you look at invoke, there's a number of choices there that could be made, and the choice is sacrifice. So Caracol, you sense that what you were being charged with is to destroy this thing, and until you do so, you will have -1 ongoing to pray. So to make things right for having tried to commune with this thing, which in Caracol's eyes is an aberration, that's what you must do.
Okay.
You don't have to do it now, but that's what's being asked of you.
I'm gonna pick up the bug, spin it around, and put it back down, so it's going the opposite way.
Like in the same spot where it was?
Yeah.
So we'll go back over? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's
headed back.
Yeah. Yes. So it's going to erase everything that it, or at least that's what I think it'll do.
Okay. To everybody else, you see Tio step out the walkway, get down on the ground, look really, really closely at this bug. And then, like maybe there's a shiver that passes over his body, and then he stands up, picks the bug up. And when you pick it up, it's pretty heavy. It's a good size weight. Like, actually, when you pick it up, you have to pull a little bit before it gives. And then there's a couple of thin threads of some viscous stuff connecting the bug to the ground that break really quickly, spider webby type things. And then you turn it around and set it back down so it's facing the other way. And it's midnight, so I think we're going to call it there. On that note.
It sucks.
I mean, unless you want to kill the bug or something right now. You're going to wait to see if it erases things? Did you have a next step you were going to take?
No. That I mean, just because like that sucks. That's what I would do. I would want to see if it.
See what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll take a while because it's really slow, but
right.
You'll be able to observe something.
Okay.
So, real quick, we'll just wrap up. Alignment goals. Anyone?
I was sort of thinking about disrupting the dominant paradigm, or isn't that the chaotic?
Yeah. By
taking all the crystals out of the cave of the god.
Oh yeah, shit, yeah. Totally. That goes pretty far against your whole heritage and everything. That's totally counts. Yes, you get an XP for that.
I mean, in my interpretation, it's reclaiming my heritage, but it's kind of a radical justification.
And it's definitely a kind of vandalizing of the old ways, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
this kind of monolith of the Nurgan culture you're breaking down. That totally counts. Anybody else? Okay, nobody's gonna try to do that.
Well, if the crystal is like rightfully belonging to Amu and the Nurgan, does helping him take the crystal correct like a balance or imbalance?
I could hear the argument. I mean, why do you think it might correct the imbalance?
Well, if I believe that radical interpretation of reclaiming the heritage of the people that left, they had to leave their homeland behind, and helping him or Amu have a piece of the history back maybe is.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Yep, definitely. Take it. Mark an XP. Right.
I'm going to take one too then.
Oh, because you have to be neutral as well. Yeah, sure. Saphira, any disruption? Are you still going to be...
Huh?
Sorry, go on.
Currently, I'm still chaotic. Okay. I don't think that I was specifically thinking that about in regards to like removing stuff from the cave. So.
Okay. Traits. How about Claudio? Anything?
I don't think I was very violent.
Well,
I can't recall it.
Opportunity to be violent. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Amu. Amu, did you act on any traits?
Somewhat gregarious in terms of getting everybody to have a council meeting in the middle of the temple.
Yeah, and you were certainly gregarious with those cows.
That's true.
Making friends with the cows. Great. XP for you. Tio. You kind of did some bluffy things, right?
Would pretending to know the words of the
song,
or I feel like there was something else too.
You lied about a few things. Yeah, you lied about a few things.
I did. Can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember what they were, but there were definitely more than a couple times where you said the opposite of what was true.
Right. Oh yeah, the cave was the rubbled in cave was I lied about that being a big cave full of crystals.
Oh yeah, right. Yes. And I think your idealism came in a little bit. I mean, trying to commune with this bug was a little idealistic, even if it backfired. Like, I feel like you were really trying to pay attention to the ideals of your religion. You just got some more to learn, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, anyway, you get 1 XP for that. Sophie, did you think about a new trait to have?
Yeah, my new vice is envious.
Nice. Perfect. And that totally came into play.
Yeah.
Right. So mark that. I don't think any problems were solved with violence. Oh, which I'm changing to physical force instead of violence in the new rules. So, right, there wasn't a whole lot of fighters weren't doing a whole lot of physical force stuff. And clerics fulfilling your tenet. I'm also changing the wording of that to act on your faith in a memorable way. Because that's actually a really great thing that maybe memorable is not quite the right word yet, but it's going to be more about acting on your faith. So I mean, I may even remove the whole idea of a tenet as long as you can have like these domains and maybe, I don't know, reword it a different way, because hitting these tenets has been so hard. And I think both of you clerics did that. I think Saphira just like having this kind of, resentment and envy even is connected to that, I felt. And the thing you said about wanting to have that missing out on the transcendent experience or whatever, like that feels connected to that your trippy clericdom. And Tio, there were a couple times when you did that. So you guys both get XP for that. Questions, as a group, did you make an exciting discovery? Yeah.
The cows.
Yeah. The bugs.
Cows from a famous song. Great. Everybody gets an XP for that. Did you overcome a difficult obstacle? I don't think there were any difficult obstacles, really.
Or if there were, we didn't overcome them.
Yeah, maybe there were, and you didn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say nothing was really difficult. Did you acquire some memorable booty? You got backpacks full of crystals, so yes, you did. Everybody gets an XP for that. Yeah, and then this would be the point where you could, if you wanted to, gain a trait, lose a trait. If anybody wanted to do that. We don't have to do that now, but if you look at that PDF I linked to, it should have the info in there. Oh, I'm sorry, Sophie. I didn't see this note in the chat that you left there earlier about glitching, about Hangouts freezing on you.
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if I don't know. It kept freezing, so then I was like, I don't know if I already said something or if it got cut out, or I don't know.
And then you went into mime mode.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a wrap.
Is anybody near level 3?
I have 3 to go.
To level 3?
Yeah.
All right.
I've got 5 to go.
I think like 2 sessions ago or 1 session ago, I failed a lot of rolls.
Ah.
Oh yeah, last session failing. Yeah, I failed a few rolls.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, and I guess we didn't recover any hit points or health or anything because we were all running around at night.
That's right. Everybody got woken up to go deal with Bros, so nobody would get to recover hit points that night. That's the drawback to not getting a full night's sleep, or most of a night's sleep even.
Yeah.
So that might need to be addressed some other way. More sleep. Which is something I need right now. Okay. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Next Tuesday?
That's the plan, if everybody's still cool with that.
I'm available.
Okay. Awesome. Then we'll plan on that. I'll see you then.
All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.